us to know who are the new clerks in Secretary Generals of Parliaments. Maybe with your indulgence, colleagues, we can start at that corner and then we go around and end at the other corner. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. My name is Jeffrey Mwenyeri, Deputy Clerk, Malawi Parliament.
Can you just repeat again? Sorry for that. We didn't hear you.
Thank you so much, Chair.
No sound from the floor.
Yeah, it's because. Thank you very much for our technicians. I think we are back on track. We can just continue from where we have ended from Valmarie.
Madam Clerk, Clerks of Parliament, Secretary Generals, I'm Telmo Sakoza. I'm representing the Clerk of Parliament from the Kingdom of Eswatini. I am the clerk at table in Eswatini Parliament. Thank you.
The interpretation.
Yes. If IT could just adjust the volume, we can't hear, although the microphones are working, we can't hear what the speakers are saying. I think it has something to do with the volume.
So you can go ahead.
Or the headsets. We're
Thank
being
you.
encouraged to use our headsets to amplify the volume.
Oh. My name is Mohammed Ali, Deputy Clerk, Senate, Parliament of Kenya.
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. My name is Lebo Amfan Mayaman, Clerk to the National Assembly of Lesotho.
Good morning, Chairperson, colleagues. My name is Momodou Cisse, Clerk of the National Assembly of the Gambia.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Cyril Linsia, Clerk to the Parliament of Ghana.
Good morning. My name is Abdel Nasser Goulet, the Clerk or the Secretary General of Somali Senate.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Adolphe Mwesiga Kasaija, Clerk, Parliament of Uganda.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Loveness Mayaka, Deputy Clerk Administration, National Assembly of Zambia.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Nomasonto Sunga, Deputy Clerk, Parliament of Zimbabwe.
Chairperson, my name is Abdurrahman Muhammad Abdulli, the Secretary General of the House of the People of the Somali Parliament and a member of the Executive Committee.
For the two of us, we have introduced ourselves already.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Rasmi Barwin, Deputy Secretary General of Libyan House of Representatives. Thank you.
صباح الخير للجميع. أنا اسمي حسن جوهرة من مجلس الأمة الجزائري مدير عام.
السلام عليكم. اسمي جمال بندير أمين عام البرلمان الصحراوي.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Barbara Di Tapo, Clerk of the National Assembly of Botswana.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Ferdinand Sindaronga, Secretary General of Burundi National Assembly.
Je m'appelle Renovan Yonzima.
I am Renovan Yozima. Secretary General of the National Transition of Chad.
Forum, representing the Secretary General.
Bonjour, Madame la Présidente. Je suis.
Good morning, Chair. I am.
We also have our colleagues at the back there. We just want to know who you are. Thank you. Support staff or so there are no secretary generals or clerks that are sitting at the back. And we don't want, you don't want to introduce yourself, colleagues. Back. Please, if we can start there now, yes, with you. Madam, thank you. It's fine. It's okay. I can see that you don't have the mic, so even for interpretation, they will not hear you. But you are also welcome, colleagues, because without you, there's nothing that we can do. Thank you so much for coming. Should I? Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable. I'm so used to saying honorable, distinguished colleague, chairperson of the association, for facilitating those introductions. We have now received indication that Honorable Third Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament has arrived and will be joining us shortly. Whilst we wait for her to join us, I would like to take colleagues through the concept for this meeting, because it could be, and we do apologize that colleagues may not have had the opportunity to look through the concept note before the start of the proceedings. But by way of background, the Pan-African Parliament is a continental body that is part of the broader African Union architecture. The African Union itself is a continental body that brings together 55 countries of Africa in an effort to seek integration within the African continent. As part of the architecture of the overall African Union, there is an understanding amongst African heads of state and government that there's need for there to be a Pan-African Parliament, or a parliament at the continental level. And this parliament here, based in Midrand, South Africa, is established to create a link between continental objectives and regional and national objectives. It is set up in order to ensure that African citizens at national level have an input into the crafting of continental legal instruments. It also is set up to ensure that this parliament transmits information and awareness to citizens on the ground of what the continent is discussing. So there's an upward and a downward responsibility for this Pan-African Parliament to feed upwards to Addis Ababa, where the headquarters of the union is, an understanding of what the citizens need, but downstream also what the continent is doing down to the people. The parliament has a quasi-legislative role. It does not have full legislative power, although it's referred to as a parliament. At the present time, it has consultative and advisory functions with regard to the continent. There is a recognition in calling this meeting that there needs to be a conversation between continental levels of parliamentary levels with regional levels and national levels, that this conversation should be at all three levels. And I'm pleased that within this room, we have the Pan-African Parliament, continental. We have at least at the last count, at least 30 national parliaments represented here, and the numbers may grow. We also have representation from at least one regional parliament. And therefore, it makes for a good opportunity to have this conversation of how these three levels interact with each other. The Pan-African Parliament has 4 major responsibilities. That is oversight over the continental policy making. It also has a role with regard to citizen voice, which is what I described, getting messages up from the citizens to the African Union in Addis Ababa, but also downstream as well. And then generally representing citizen representation, ensuring that citizens are represented and participate in continental decision making. The manner in which this meeting has been conceptualized takes note of the fact that there has been a gap in the abilities of national parliaments to fully integrate and incorporate continental objectives into the domestic work that they do. And to a large part, the Pan-African Parliament takes responsibility for that gap because it may not have fully communicated what the Pan-African Parliament does, what its mandate is, and provide national and regional parliaments with the information that they need. And therefore, at this workshop, in which a lot of discussions will be taking place, the objectives of this conference. She's here. Okay. Let me. Okay. The third vice president is about to join us. We'll need to make space for her at the podium.
Yes, we can move.
Okay. I'll just receive her. Your Excellency, Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Lucia Passos, we wish to welcome you this morning to the annual conference of Secretaries General of national parliaments, regional parliaments of the African continent that have come here to the precincts of the Pan-African Parliament to hold their annual conference. Excellency Vice President, the members that have introduced themselves in your absence, we will take guidance as to whether distinguished colleagues will introduce themselves to you. I had begun by just indicating the purpose of the meeting, and I'll make a few remarks before handing the floor to Your Excellency to make your remarks. I had indicated to colleagues that the mandate of the Pan-African Parliament and that the purpose of the Pan-African Parliament is to ensure that citizen voices are heard and that citizen voices find their way into the formulation of continental policies, but also that once continental policies and frameworks are developed, the Pan-African Parliament also has the responsibility of cascading those policies and information to national, regional levels. Your Excellency, present with us are 30 national parliaments and additional number of national parliaments secretaries general will join us. We also have the presence of one regional parliament in our midst. The concept for this workshop takes into account that there has been a gap and a limitation in the quality of conversations that have taken place between Secretaries General operating at continental, regional, and national levels. And this workshop seeks to link or create a link between the information capacities of these three levels so that the continental objectives of Agenda 2063, which the Union has developed, are understood at all levels, but also that a mechanism can be created for how national parliaments can support the work of the Union. Your Excellency, on the program for today, we had indicated that there would be an address from the Secretary General from Namibia, who is the chairperson of this association, Madam Lydia Kandetu. She is sitting to your right, to your left. Your Excellency, she's sitting on your immediate left. She is the chairperson of the association, and she has given her remarks to the meeting. We also have, as part of this meeting, the adoption of the report of the last meeting of the association. And this report will be presented by the legal counsel of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Clement Mavungu. And in that report, Your Excellency will learn of some of the issues that were discussed at the last meeting of this nature. Your Excellency, there also is on the program for today a presentation by the Director of Strategic Planning and Delivery, Madam Boto Bayendi, from the African Union Commission, who will be presenting on Agenda 2063 and the 10-year implementation plan of the African Union and how that plan is envisaged to be domesticated at the national level. Your Excellency, we thought that this presentation would lay a good foundation for regional and national secretaries general to appreciate the work of the Union better, and then also find a sense of the roles that could potentially be played. Your Excellency, there is also on the program a presentation and discussion around effective collaboration amongst secretaries general of parliaments and how and to come up with a number of initiatives on how we concretely intend to work together in the future. There are two experts that are present here, Dr. Remember Miamingi and Dr. Jafet Begon, who will be presenting potential areas for collaboration, which are based on the protocol establishing the Pan-African Parliament, and also an understanding of the roles of national parliaments. This is a presentation that is indicative, but it will lay the foundation for a debate and a discussion amongst secretaries general on where the issues and options for collaboration lie. Your Excellency, after the lunch break, there is a presentation on the status of ratification of domestication of African Union treaties, in particular the Malabo Protocol. This presentation will be made by Mr. Clement Mavungu, who's the legal counsel of the Pan-African Parliament, outlining elements of the Malabo Protocol, which is an aspirational protocol that envisages a parliament, a continental parliament with full legislative power, but would also give us the status of where different instruments of the African Union are in terms of ratification and domestication. Your Excellency, thereafter, there will be a discussion by the association on the association's own organizational matters, some of which emanate from the minutes of the last meeting, but also based on the constitution of the association. And then finally, there will be a closing ceremony in which key outcomes of this discussion will be presented and adopted by this meeting. Your Excellency, this is the program for today. And with those words, I would like to kindly invite Your Excellency to deliver a few remarks at the opening of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clark. Good morning, everybody. I would like to greet the chairperson of the Association of Secretary Generals. Mrs. Lydia Candeto. And I was also, my greetings to our Clerk of Parliament. Our greetings also go to representatives from the African Union Commission, the experts who are here. So I very warmly welcome you. I welcome all Secretary General from national parliaments who are here at the premises of the Pan-African Parliament. Well, I would like to start by very sincerely apologize on behalf of the Bureau and on behalf of the Secretariat because of the delay. Unfortunately, as you are all aware, we have no control over our agenda. Sometimes we are taken by surprise because of other commitments. The president cannot be here, so that's why I'm here to officially open this meeting, and I hope that it will be a fruitful meeting so that when you go back to your countries, you can take with you useful information that can be shared with your staff. Secretaries General play a crucial role in the life of a parliament. You are the backbone of your respective parliaments. A parliament cannot work without a secretariat, without a clerk of parliament. Is the link between the politician and the administrator. And now that we are celebrating 20 years of the Pan-African Parliament, your role is more and more important because we have to take stock of what we have done so far and we have to prepare for the future. And preparing for the future requires your proactive participation to implement the African Union's vision for the continent. The Parliament has a mandate to be the voice of African peoples. It has a mandate of promoting and protecting human rights of African peoples and its diaspora, and to work towards consolidating democracy across the continent. And we are going through one of the greatest crises of our continent, of unconstitutional governments across the continent. If we have unconstitutional governments, it means that we don't have secretaries general in those countries because parliament is no longer working. If parliament is not working, we have no laws. We have no officers for oversee public policies to improve lives of African population. So I call on all of you to be proactive in implementing policies that have been designed by national parliaments. And I call on you to be the link between what I addressed initially, politicians and administration branch. All parliaments have standing committees. These standing committees have a mandate to implement government policies in terms of oversight. Standing committees exist to oversight the government, and the secretaries general and all secretariat team and the plenary have an obligation to know all national policies related to a country. And it should be part of a strategic document that is adopted as the annual budget. And such policies should be based on 2063 agenda. We know that many countries have not domesticated Agenda 2063 yet. This is an instrument that was designed by the African Union. It was designed in 2013 and it was adopted in 2015 in Niger and should be implemented by all 55 member countries. So at the moment, we are still domesticating this agenda 10 years after its adoption. So isn't this too much? 10 years just to domesticate an agenda. This is where you have a role to play to accelerate the implementation of this agenda. The agenda has 7 aspirations. I will not go into details. Otherwise, our representative from the African Union will have nothing to share with us. I would just like to highlight some of the items on the agenda. Prosperity based on inclusive and sustainable development. What we are saying here is that all African populations should have equitable access to health, to education, to water, to basic goods. And a parliament will not execute, but it will oversee. Clerks of committees prepare documents so that members of parliaments at the level of committees prepare plans and carry out oversight. If clerks of parliaments are not aware, are not familiar with Agenda 2063, will not be in a position to provide such a contribution. So it's important for them to become conversant with Agenda 2063. You have an opportunity to have with you experts on Agenda 2063 who came from the African Union Commission, experts on planning for a new approach that the African Union is implementing that all member states should adhere to. So make the most of this meeting so that you can take with you useful information and that you can train your staff at the level of a committee so that they can provide support to members of parliament at the level of standing committees in your respective countries. The agenda also talks about continental and regional integration. Regional integration and continental integration requires free movement of goods and people. So there are instruments that have to be ratified. And you should be aware of all those continental instruments that have already been adopted by the heads of state assembly so that they are ratified. A parliament for ratification to take place should facilitate the process for the Minister of Foreign Affairs to take dossiers to parliaments. So clerks of parliament have a crucial role for parliamentary diplomacy with the ministries of foreign affairs to alert them on pending issues like the Malabo Protocol, the Protocol on free movement of people and goods, the Protocol on people with disability, the Protocol on the Democracy Charter, as other instruments. Please check with your ministers how you can take these issues to Parliament.
Temos a nossa responsabilidade, vamos fazer também ao nosso nível. Mas precisamos ter essa sinergia entre as instituições a nível do país. Neste momento, nós sabemos qual é.
En ce moment, nous avons des problèmes de budget, le budget de fonctionnement. Il y a un problème.
Can you get the English? Right, thank you.
Dit madame, on peut continuer? Non, il y a un problème. On n'entend pas les interprètes.
Can you hear me now? Thank you.
Anglais, ce qu'on n'entend pas. Le canal anglais, il y a un problème au canal anglais.
No, yes, it's okay.
Canal 1. Canal 1, j'entends ma voix.
Please just switch on to channel 1. Thank you. Right. What I was saying about the type of diplomacy that you have to do to rectify the protocols, and also to look into the budget of the Pan-African Parliament, which can also actually work accordingly. Are you okay? Good. Thank you. Right. So, right. I think it's all right now. Can you hear all channels, please? English, French, Spanish. We don't have Spanish. Arabic. Thank you. I'm going to move on. As far as the working budget of the Pan-African Parliament, as you all know, that the Pan-African Parliament is the third organ of the African Union. And in accordance with the protocol and the African Charter that established PARP, it should be the body that should approve the budget of the African Union. Unfortunately, as you all know, the budget is approved by the ambassadors and correct. And there is an approval phase of member state that is called F15. And the F15 is made of the technicians of the Ministry of Finance of member states. And there, the clerks can also advocate together with these technicians in the respective countries and member states to move forward. We know that the national parliaments have issues with their budgets as well. And who manages the budget of local parliaments are the clerks. And you do indicate to the boards and what budget you need to work. And as far as that budget is concerned, we would like to appeal to all of you to increase the item with regards to the functioning and participation of African parliaments. And we need the 5 members of parliament that could come here at the Pan-African Parliament. We have 2 sessions, May and October. We have 2 committee meetings in May and August. And as such, please do your part so that this can take place. So that when you are discussing the national budget with the respective Ministry of Finance, to make sure that you consecrate in your budget that refers to the participation of the 5 members of parliament at the meetings of the Pan-African Parliament. When the funding founders of PAP, they thought of everything. They thought of the parties in the opposition, the ruling parties, and also women and the youth. So the delegation that should come to the Pan-African Parliament should reflect all these segments. It is in our rules. So
We should not just send a group that has only 5 men, and our secretariat will actually pay attention to that, and that will not be allowed, and they will not actually take oath. You cannot just have a group that members of the ruling part, and the commission will not, the committee will not actually approve that. So it's very important that the clerks know what the rules say, the rules of the Pan-African Parliament say. You have to update yourself so as to collaborate with these rules, starting from the composition of the delegation that should join the Pan-African Parliament. It has to have members of parliament that are in the opposition, the ruling party, that also are part of the parliament, and women and the youth. These 5 segments should be reflected in those groups that join the Pan-African Parliament. And this is on your hands, and these letters are sent. I should say that the letters that are sent to the Pan-African Parliament are signed by you when you actually institute the members of parliament that should come here. So the clerks at national level should sign the letter that is sent to the Pan-African Parliament with that composition, and the dossier is analyzed by our secretariat and then sent to the board and the Committee on Rules. So we would like to appeal to all of you. When you are sending your delegation to the Parliament, you have to verify whether it's all in accordance with the rules. And we will be contributing for the consolidation of democracy at the Pan-African Parliament, given that we are the voice of the people in Africa and representing all political sensibilities. This is how democracy is made, having all the different segments in a joint house to defend the interests of the African people. And when we have all these segments meeting in one place, we are securing the peace and security that our founding fathers designed. We cannot have peace and security if we are not respecting the opposition parties. We cannot somehow mar democracy by leaving the opposition parties aside. We have to learn how to deal with the different segments. It is with the difference that you construct and consolidate democracy and build peace. And peace is not built if we are not within the same group. The difference and the understanding and dialogue are parts of this construction, and that by doing so you can do by contributing through your parliaments. Cultural values are also part of the aspirations of the Agenda 2063. Africa is rich in cultural values, and we need to take advantage of that and share these values to the coming generations so they can continue with they can continue harnessing the riches of the continent. And this should be addressed and to the people, by the people, and we are the ones that should promote development in Africa. When you talk about free trade, and this is done by companies, and who make the companies? Women, men, and the youth. Therefore, we have to work so that the legal security of our country is a reality. And who ensures that are the national parliaments, given that we approve the legislations, the laws, and by giving them the appropriate security for them to do their business, that's trading within and with the other member states. when you invest in a member state, you have to be assured that you will not lose the investment. So if not, this is not the case, then we will not be contributing to building up or generate dignified employment, and we have to do that for the continent. Brain drainage from our countries will leave our continent even more poor. We have to invest in industry, agriculture, promote poultry rearing, and add aggregate value to our products. And we can only do that with the cadre, with the youth that is trained in a much competent manner to value all these aspects. And we would like to have a continent that will be prosperous and that attracts our cadre at national level, but also the diaspora. The clerks must promote dialogue with our diaspora. You have to alert to members of parliament vis-a-vis the different activities that they carry at national parliament to invite the diaspora. We have a very rich diaspora that is filled with knowledge and financial resources. In most countries, 22% of those countries actually come from the diaspora, and we cannot see it as just a source of funding, but they have to be integrated in the development of the country, thus participating in the formulation of knowledge policies and that of the continent. They have to be part of the implementation of the Agenda 2063. We have to build up conditions so that they can participate efficiently and efficaciously. And we do that with your intervention in these fields. Institutional reality is also your responsibility as clerks to actually bring that to your national parliaments. The founding fathers, as I said at the beginning, they thought about all the actors, all the different actors, all political parties, and you have to be non-partisans, if you like, and you have to work with all and provide equal opportunities to all those that are part of your parliaments. It's only then that we can have the institutional reality. We cannot build up a strong parliament without a strong secretariat. I believe that every one of you and each one of you here are doing your level best to make sure that your parliament is stronger, that mirrors what is your work. Certainly, will be tempted by the politicians to play their game, but please do not fall onto that trap. You are not politicians. Clerks are not politicians. You are the backbone of the parliament. You cannot take sides, neither for the ruling party nor the opposition. Do serve your parliament in your country and the continent, and the Pan-African Parliament, so that we can have the ratification of all instruments that we need, so we can have a very strong parliament by also ratifying the Malabo protocol, and we would really hope to have your collaboration on that. I would like now to wish all of you a very good and successful working day and a good stay in South Africa, and would like also to take this opportunity to thank the South African government through DIRCO for the support accorded to us for this meeting, for also providing the logistics. We would like them to thank all the secretariat at PAP for the organization of this meeting, and the interpreters as well, and your national parliaments that have set up the conditions for you to join this meeting. We are now with about 35 countries that are members of ASGAT. Chair, please make an added effort to advocate and carry out advocacy so that other countries can join ASDAC, and ASGAT has to mirror the 54 countries that make up the Pan-African Parliament. Only Eritrea is not part of the Pan-African Parliament. These 54 countries, Madam Chair and team, please work hard so that the remaining countries that are not members of ASGAD can join it. And we would be setting an example and being the face of the parliament as a whole. With 35 countries, we are not being that, we are not doing that. So many countries are not there. And we have 5 regions in the continent, and all of them need to be part of the Clerks Association. I would love to see here the representative of my country, the representative of all the other countries that are not here. Please do your level best to go after all these countries that are not part of the association so that they can join. And this can, in the end, be a representative association of the Pan-African Parliament. Thank you very much, and I wish you success.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for those remarks. I would like to invite the chairperson of the association to offer thanks, a few words of thanks to Her Excellency, after which we will all go and take a family photo with the Honorable Vice President, and then come back to start and forge ahead with our substantive business.
Okay, thank you to our clerk of PAP. Let me take this opportunity on your behalf, colleagues, with your indulgence, to thank our third vice president of PAP so much for coming, to talk to us. We have taken note of so many things that she has alluded to, and that is actually why we are here today, to look into most of these matters that she mentioned, so that we see how we can take ASGP further to the next height. And also, she mentioned that we should also go out and look at the countries that are not members of ASGP, so that we invite them to become members also, because otherwise they are going to lose out. Otherwise, how are they going, to take their parliaments to the next level, especially when we are talking about Malabo Protocol? All the countries must come, in a pot, so that we ratify, and the clerks and secretary generals that are here can take, this also to their parliaments, so that all of us are talking the same language as Africans. So with that, we thank you so much, and we really appreciate your coming here. We know that you are very busy also, and you make time, to be here with us. We thank you so much, and we wish you all the best for the future. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm really sorry. I'd like just to add one more aspect that is very important role of the clerks here present. That is the domestication of the communication plan of the Agenda 2063, and this should be priority for you when you go back to your country. Please produce flyers, publish it in the website of your parliaments. All these aspects are very important. It's not just the members of parliament, but the general secretaries have to work for that, and please take it as a takeaway home. And this would be one of the first priorities for the implementation of the results of this meeting, the dissemination of the Agenda 2063, and should be really great. Thank you very much. I'm really, really sorry for not having said that at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. We'll now be led by the protocol.
Agora vamos passar
You will lead us to the where we are going to take the family photo, and then after that we come back to start the substantive business of the meeting. Thank you.
Recall.
on the best practices, but also on lessons learned to ensure that parliaments are better prepared to face and respond to future crises. Following these substantive deliberations, the meeting proceeded to discuss internal matters, and this includes deliberations on the internal governance of ASGAP, the election and installation of the new ASGAP Executive Committee, and adoption of the outcome document, meaning the resolutions arising from the third annual meeting of Clerks of Parliament. Let me, Madam Chair and Honorable Clerks, highlight that as far as internal governance matters are concerned, the meeting, after having highlighted a few issues which required to be refined in the constitution of ASGAP, which has stood almost the test of time, but indeed needs to be updated to current realities. The meeting decided to set up a team consisting of the following clerks. But this team had a mission to brainstorm on the amendments or potential amendments to the Constitution and present them back to plenary. The meeting was consisted of the Honorable Secretary General to the National Council of Namibia, Madam Lydia Kandetu, the Honorable Clerk of the National Assembly of Côte d'Ivoire, who was represented by Monsieur Alain Akapo Adra, the Honorable Clerk of SADC PF, SADC Parliamentary Forum, Ms. Bueno Segoma, the Honorable Clerk of the National Assembly of Morocco, Mr. Najib El Hadi, and the Honorable Clerk of the National Assembly of Sierra Leone, Mr. Tarawaili Faham Umar.
Correction then, the Secretary to the National Council, it was Tosi Namisep. I will just give it to the Secretariat.
Okay.
It was not me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Then the meeting proceeded to designate to fill the gaps or rather the vacancies in the executive committee of ASGAP, which in terms of the ASGAP constitution is the governing body of ASGAP, composed of 10 members, 2 from each region, and these members elect amongst them the chairperson and 2 vice chairpersons for a term of 3 years. Therefore, after some consultations, the following were nominated and confirmed by consensus as members of the executive committee. Representing the Central African region, Mr. Niyonzima Renovat, clerk from Burundi, and Mr. Kikudi Kongolo from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Representing the Eastern African region, Mr. Abdi Rakim Bou from Somalia, but a second slot for the region remained vacant. Then for Northern Africa, we have Mr. Mohamed Driss Dada from Algeria and Mr. Najib El Hadib from Morocco. For Southern Africa, we have Miss Lydia Chimise Kandetu from Namibia and Mr. Alfredo Vasco Nogueira from Mozambique. However, Mr. George Colisso, Secretary to Parliament of South Africa, was co-opted as a member of the Executive Committee of ASGAP. And for the Western African region, Mr. Alain Akabo Adra of Côte d'Ivoire and Mr. Tamaraili Param Umar of Sierra Leone were designated members of the Executive Committee. And the newly elected members of the Executive Committee had a private gathering where they nominated and selected the president, the first vice president, and the second vice president, where Madame Lydia Kandetu was elected as president of ASGAP. With two deputy presidents, the first one, Mr. Najib from Morocco, and the second vice president, Mr. Alain Akagbo from Côte d'Ivoire. So following completion of its agenda, ASGAP closed its meeting by adopting an outcome document, which is annexed to the report. It is Annex 1, a resolution from the fourth meeting of Association of Secretaries General of African Parliaments. And this resolution was further submitted as a document to feed into the meeting of speakers, the Speakers Conference, which took place immediately after the conclusion of the ASGAP meeting, because many of the issues, particularly the policy issues that were discussed, also spoke to the agenda of the Speakers Conference, and therefore they were taken also on board in the outcome document of the Speakers Conference. Madam Chairperson, Honorable Clerks, this is a brief of your last meeting, which is also annexed with the list of, the attendance list, just in case there's an omission, we can always integrate. I submit.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Clement Mavulu. Not Mavulu, but Mavuku. Yeah, for those brief introduction of the report. In my introductory remarks, colleagues, I said, the report is there for note-taking, because I didn't know that, there's anything that we really can discuss at this point in time that took place 2 years back. And we were supposed, to have a meeting last year. I also explained why we couldn't have the meeting. But maybe for just a few minutes, 5 minutes, I can just allow, if there are people that want to give a comment or anything. I have my deputy here, close to me. Let me start with you.
I'm not a
Somali.
deputy, I'm an executive member. Actually, if you look at page 23, is it page 19 of 23? That page, it's clearly written, Mr. Abdul Hakim Boh, replaced by Abdurrahman Muhammad Abdulle, That's me. So I think the report is indicated that one. The other thing also I have a question. I have seen also the East Africa has 2 slots, which seemingly one was at that time nominated, and I wonder what happened to other member from East Africa. That's also an inquiry, but also this one as a point of correction. Just
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
On that vacant one, the secretary generals that were there promised to send, another name to PAP, which they didn't do. That is why it is still vacant. So if they are here, I think it can happen because the position is still theirs.
Okay, we will see.
You will caucus?
You'll caucus, and then we'll communicate later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. I'm just giving the floor to him, but I didn't see that my mic was off. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues. Yes, indeed, the legal advisor has just taken us through the issues that we had discussed some 2 years ago. But even though I do not wish to go into the details of what is entailed in the minutes, I just want to point out a few issues. For me, I see a very weak ASGAP. I say very weak because many a time we convene, and many a time we take decisions, and many a time we do implement those decisions. And as a result, we are becoming weaker by the day. We met here in 2022, and we constituted an executive committee. For me, there is weak coordination and communication. Ever since we left this hall 2 years ago, we have not had effective communication nor effective coordination from the executive committee. Most of the things that are happening within the association are mostly not known to members. We get correspondences for meetings, conferences, and for me, that's all. I don't know whether other colleagues get daily correspondences or coordinating information. But for me, ever since we left this hall 2 years ago, coordination and communication had been lacking. Even the executive committee, I stand to be corrected, has not met for 2 years. For 2 years, the executive committee has not met. So if that committee has not met, that committee which was constituted to look into the affairs and lead others has not met for 2 years, I wonder what association we're running. The other issue has to do with the Constitution. Yes, indeed, before we left this hall 2 years ago, a small committee was put in place to look at the Constitution, make recommendations for review, etc., etc. That committee met once, I still could recall, here, once we left Johannesburg to our different parliaments. We resolved that each and every member of the committee was to go home, do some work on the Constitution, and send in proposals to Clement. I still could recall that 2 or 3 times I attempted doing that. But the question I want to ask for clarification from Clement is, do we now have a reviewed Constitution? Because that committee, as far as I know, never met. And as far as I know, that committee, well, it is possible few people sent in comments, but no formal meeting, no further meetings were held in order to either fine-tune whatever we might have brought up, or better put, to validate what individual committee members might have submitted to claiming. So these are all issues, and as I speak here, I see that even the rules that govern us as an organization are all either weak or even not published. Most of us here are not even acquainted with the rules. And we say we are running an association. And this is like the secretariat. This is a powerhouse. So I just want to entreat us all to put in some more effort to actually ensure that we are running an association. Just to draw our attentions back, especially those of us who belong to SOCAT. If you see the way SOCAT runs, if we are able to copy that particular formula, we'll be able to make this association a very effective one. I thank you. I do not wish to hold you too long.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, Tarawali Paran Uma is a part of the executive committee. And I really thank you so much for bringing up, those issues. We are taking note of them. Maybe I can also allow the colleague next to you, because I saw his hand also. Now, I cannot even see, from which country. So maybe, okay. Thank you.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have noted that, I'm just allowing you to put your headphone. We've noted that some changes have taken place in most of our national parliaments, and this will, of course, have a bearing on the members who were part of the executive committee earlier. I mean, we have the example of Côte d'Ivoire, where my colleague Alain Adra was a member of the executive committee as the second vice chair. And I'd like to know what is the fate of the new secretaries general who replaced those who were part of the executive committee. Were these people elected intuite personae in their own name, or are these people just representatives of their national parliaments? And in that case, the new secretary general becomes an automatic member of the executive committee. So this is the comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, my brother from Côte d'Ivoire. Any other comment? Otherwise, we can just answer. Thank you. I'll come. Can I just give him first? Yeah. Let me give the floor to you first before we close it. Thank you.
شكرا سيدة الرئيسة.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I did not attend the 2022 meeting, and as a representative of the Sahrawi Republic, these documents should have been sent to the secretaries general so that they could have actually made their comments, so that we learn from our experience in the past to enhance our relationship. We must improve our communication so that we learn from each other and we can also support each other as a result. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Maybe before I give the floor to the clerk, I just want, to apologize profusely that these documents was not sent to you in good time. As you can see, all of us, none of us are here in South Africa. We are in our different countries, and we have our colleagues from PAP that are helping us, to put these things together. And as a result, some of the documents were sent to people that are not even secretary generals anymore. So that confusion was there, and I really want to apologize for that. And as my colleague there from Sahrawi said, we have to learn from our mistakes so that we do better next time. Thank you very much for that. So with that, I want to give the floor to the clerk of PAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, members, for having raised this point. This is my inaugural meeting of the annual Clerks Conference. And I was just looking at Article 18 and 19 of the Constitution of the Association to note that there is a big responsibility on the Pan-African Parliament to enable, support, resource the activities of the association. Of course, the Parliament, since the meeting, the fourth meeting of the association in August, has undergone an instability that you may all be aware of. There was the dislodging of the Clerk of Parliament, of the Pan-African Parliament for a period of time. And of course, the office itself has been extremely unstable, not having a permanent clerk. I think this is one of the matters that has, in part, affected the work of the association, and we should acknowledge that. And of course, in the course of our discussions, also look into how this can be, the association can be supported in a consistent manner. There's then the issue that I see under 19 of Finances and Budget, that the Pan-African Parliament may provide any material and financial means for the association. I mean, the Pan-African Parliament itself is struggling with finances, and therefore one of the discussions may be to look at funding mechanisms, resource mobilization of how we can begin to look for funding for the work, the important work of this association. So whilst we may not have immediate solutions, it appears that consistent meetings need to be organized by the Pan-African Parliament in consultation with the chairperson of the association and the executive, both at the level of organizing the plenary meeting that we're having, but also ordinary and extraordinary sessions. My proposal is that we should consider to take advantage of regular online meetings and institutionalize the regularity of those meetings online so that there's a consistent conversation over time. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Oliko, is there anything that you want to add?
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Perhaps there was a question in relation to vacancies in the executive committee. And I first wanted to highlight that membership of ASGAP is dual. It is institution based because you need to be a clerk of parliament to be a member of ASGAP. But once you are a member of ASGAP, and particularly you become a member of the executive committee, the membership becomes intuitive to personae. So meaning it is linked to the person because the Constitution under Article 15, under Article 15 makes it clear that if a vacancy occurs during the term of office, meaning of a clerk, due to any reason, an election to fill the vacancy for the remaining term of office shall be held. So if it was automatic, normally the replacement would fill in directly. But of course, in practice, sometimes when a clerk retires, we are not necessarily aware, and we might be continue to be communicating with probably an official from the national parliament, particularly if the email is clerkofparliament.com. We may continue until we are aware, and particularly at the next meeting of ASGAP, it will be known and the vacancy will be filled. Thank you. Yeah. Then on the issue of amendment of the rules, the constitutions was shared, and the clerks actually promised to get assistance from their respective legal officers and communicate back. We did not have feedback. And I think this occasion will be an opportunity to revive that commitment. And also, as Madam Clerk has suggested, even if it requires a meeting online, it can assist to finalize that task, so that by the next time the plenary of ASGAP meets, a new constitution can be considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clement. I just want to clarify one thing also with regard to the members of the executive committee. They consist of Central African region, East African region, Northern African region, Southern African region, and Western African region. So by consensus, the Central region came together and they bring, or they nominated 2 members who are Secretary Generals from those countries that are falling into that region. And that is how you see that, from one region you have 2 members, 2 secretaries. That is, the position of those countries. If that country, for example, it's Sahrawi, and Sahrawi clerk retired, now the region has to come together and propose another member and send, to PAP so that that person can be replaced. But that is now for the period of 3 years. For the remaining. After 3 years, like next year, new leadership will come in. So that is how it works. So I just wanted to clear that one. If there are no other comments, we just now move on. But maybe, should we adopt?
Report, yes.
Yeah. Can I not propose? Can I ask, whether we could propose, the report? Obviously, we have taken, a lot of comments, from the clerks and secretary generals that we have to learn from our mistakes. There is no way that you can give a report, in the morning of the meeting and you want, people to read it quickly. That is one mistake from us, but we are saying that we are trying to do better next time. And we are also saying that we can also have, bilateral meetings. If, we cannot meet here at PAP, but I tried, and Mr. Clement is my witness. I tried so many times. The problem was, the translations. From my country, I could not, provide translations, of, all these other countries. And as a result, I thought the best place would be, PAP. Then we can use the translation that are already there, for other meetings that are taking place. But when we are discussing the way forward, I think we can come up with a better solution how we can do it. I think with that, anyone who would like to move that we adopt the...
Let me say to let's have adopt the report with the comments and the proposed action points from the from one of our members. And the other thing also, way forward should be clearly indicated the future communications and the strategy, because it seems I remember there are two messages came from the chairperson. One was via Zoom. It was sent. I think the response was very low. That's why it could not happen. There was other meeting physically was also supposed to be held in December 2022. I personally came here in Johannesburg, but again also there was no quorum, and that also had been also cancelled. So I think in the one of the agenda will be how the communication and the meeting will take place. I propose to be adopted the meeting with the recommendation with the comments.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Seconder.
Can we have a seconder? Colleagues, this is our report. Thank you very much. Yeah, mistakes are done and mistakes are there to be learned from. So we are taking note of all the comments, and we really want to learn from this. It doesn't mean that if PAP is not calling a meeting, we can also call a meeting ourselves, but we have to reorganize ourselves better. Yeah, with that, colleagues, thank you so much. We move now to the next. We said we are not going to break for tea. With that, we will listen to the presentation on the agenda 2063, the implementation plan and domestication that will be done by Mrs. Boto Bayedi. I don't know whether she's here, and she's ready. Thank you so much. She's which side?
Yes, thank you. If IT can project the director's presentation, please, on the screen.
Is it
No, she is here personally.
Oh, okay. Thank you
Yes,
very much for that.
but yeah, she will introduce herself. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Director. Let me take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Boto Bayendi, Director of Strategic Planning and Delivery in the Office of in the Cabinet of the Chairperson at the African Union Commission. I will be taking you through a presentation. Madam Clerk, I'm not sure if I'm putting you on the spot to say that it's a hijack presentation in that we have prepared and delivered it yesterday at the opening session. And then we were told that because you are passionate about having Pan-African Parliament onboarded fully into the second 10-year implementation plan, you'll still be a loser if you don't talk to the clerks as they are convening. And if it was by our plans, maybe even the speakers, we would have loved to talk to them. So I'm actually presenting to you or narrating to you or sharing with you what I shared with them yesterday, but then also putting you into context as to what are your greatest takeaways. We shared highlights of the Agenda 2063 and the second 10-year implementation plan status update. there was kind of like a misalignment in expectation, in that when they said that when they were looking for updates, they wanted us to tell them where Africa is in Agenda 2063 and so forth. And I will later explain the differentiator in terms of our pitch and approach to them. We then had to say we want to align the Pan-African Parliament for effective implementation of the second 10-year implementation plan, because we bend our fingers. The Pan-African Parliament was in their space to do what they are designated to do. And then we gave them high-level strategic considerations to say, going forward, this is how we would expect you to coin your strategies if you are to be in your position and take the pace of effective implementation. I'm in the room with 2 or 3 gentlemen, if they can wave, so that any difficult questions, they are the ones who would take them. They are gentlemen, difficult questions. So I'm their spokesperson and their leader as the director, but we are working as a team. There was a debate yesterday as to whether we should go back into bombarding you with what Agenda 2063 is, or we should go straight into what we want from you. My response to that is that we are managing diversity in Africa. There are some countries that are ahead in terms of Agenda 2063 alignment and implementation. There are others that are a little behind, and it is in my responsibility and in the responsibility of the chairperson of the AU that all of you are ours and we are ready to handhold. So allow us, we have kind of like 10 generic slides that will always tell us about what is Agenda 2063. So you'll be patient with me. If you are in the extreme end of the mature and knowledgeable, we are carrying others along. This Agenda 2063 is a long-term, 50-year strategic framework for growth and transformation that guide us in our individuality, in our sovereignty, but also in our collective towards attaining the AU vision. It calls for action in all sections of society. And as legislators in parliaments, and as you supporting them, when it says all sections of African society, it means all. I believe the Vice President, when she was opening, she told us that the parliament as legislators in their functions are for all of us. The disabled, the women, the children, the vulnerable, even the rich Africans that we need resources from. So we are saying that everybody should act to build a common future and destiny for Africa. That is what the agenda is about. We had a very bold vision that defines that we are by 2063, it would be year 100 of the existence of the AU or AU. We need to be an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by our own citizen and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. Our vision spells out results. And most of all, I want us to zoom into the fact that it also defines the citizens of Africa as the drivers of these results. Our tendency to be beggars all over is inconsistent with our vision, because our vision says this agenda has to be driven by citizens of Africa, by member states of Africa. Situations where we see the budget being 90% partners, 10% member states, that is very unfortunate, and it is in the wrong footing. I want us to underline the diversity, 60% youthful population almost of Africa, and say that if this 60% youthful population are the drivers of the agenda, but currently majority of them are unemployed or underemployed, what does it mean to the agenda? bear in mind as we go along discussing Agenda 2063 that there are things that we need to get right. There are inputs that we need to bring to the table if the agenda is to move. The impact, we are saying that it needs to be seen, the results be experienced by African citizens, the quality of life indicators, the education skills revolution. It has to be evident in the lives of Africans. And good as we will be in our good life, quality of life indicators, the global arena would start beeping. What is Africa doing right? Because we will be unstoppable. We cannot be ignored anymore. And there will be better rankings of Africa. In all respects, we will have the best in innovation, the best in sport, in different brands, and it will tweak our perception to a positive perception. When you meet in the global arena, people will want to sit close to you and be attracted to you rather than reject and repel you, because you are now a force to reckon. You can't be ignored. The lenses with they look at us is reflected in measurement, and we need to influence the brand. So we inform how they look at us, because the visions say we need to be a dynamic force in that global arena. This is just an indication of what we have, most of us, in our national branding agenda. The branding, people call it the branding hexagon. It looks at the governance, the people, the export, the tourism, the culture and heritage, the investment and immigration. For instance, immigration. As Africa, we need to have the power to attract people to live, work, and study in our countries, and how people perceive our country's quality of life and business environment. That is when we say we are a force to reckon, and the global people have a positive eye on us. So if this is the national brand hexagon, in our individual sovereignty and as a collective, as the African countries under the AU, we must wonder, where is our weakest link? If we look at governance, mostly governance is one of our weakest links. And we find ourselves looking ahead or above the line in terms of very difficult matters that we can't control, while our governance architecture is in our hands, and we are not doing so good on it. That attitude will not take us anywhere in being a continental brand to reckon, because those that we blame for other things, we cannot blame for our governance, we cannot be blamed for corruption, we cannot blame for anything, or the control is in us. This then makes us reflect on to Agenda 2063 spelled out specific values. The values define our software or internal composure that we must bring as a person into execution of the agenda. In our leadership role, in our technical roles, we must respect diversity and teamwork. We must think Africa above all. We must be transparent and accountable. Most of all, for the cause and debate of the day, we must be able to share information. I will expand on that later. There are critical success factors that at the beginning of the agenda, they were already spelled out that we need political will and transformational leadership. In any instance where you sit and you are a leader in your space and you are not showing transformational leadership qualities, know that you are taking away from the success of Agenda 2063. A willing political will is evident in our ability to allocate resources and to create the necessary legal and institutional framework, prioritizing Agenda 2063 priorities and objectives. And as the Parliament in our oversight role, are we able to oversee that in our member states there's evidence of political will? And as a collective, do we account in our responsibility to that. There's also institutional frameworks that need to be in place. We need to be able to mobilize resources. We need to have data, communication, and awareness. I'll pause there to say that this is an area that Madam Vice President had to pause and go back to it, that it is your responsibility to communicate and create awareness around Agenda 2063. Is there a communication strategy in your parliament? Or it is a communication strategy that speaks to SDGs but not to Agenda 2063? That is the pause and reflect that we must take. The partnerships, we must reorient Africa's partnerships to the continent's agenda and ambitions, causing international communities to align their assistance to the development corporations of Agenda 2063. Do we hunt as a pack, or we are easily broken for when each one of us has to scramble for what partners provide, therefore creating a vulnerability for divide and rule by our partners, where we end up succumbing to their demands while they are supposed to be coming forth and looking at us as equal partners and not beggars. The agenda has spelled that as far back as 2013. This is a critical success factor. If we haven't achieved it, we know that we are still coming forth on a negative balance. We need to have regional integration. The agenda from the onset spelled out that it cannot be successful if we don't exploit our regional economic communities and strengthen them. We needed to create a common African narrative where we think Africa first. In a time of conflict, because decisions are not always easy, when you get to an uncomfortable state of conflict, you have to think Africa first. Not sacrifice the collective Africa for the benefit of our sovereign rights. It's a very sensitive thing, but we had spelled out that this agenda will prevail if we more think Africa first. We have a shared history. We have also in Agenda 2063 a shared destiny. We have success stories around our shared history, and we are saying if our forefathers managed it, we can do it again also. Our diverse cultures, yet inclusive, gender inclusion, youth inclusion is critical to the success of Agenda 2063. The strategic alignment of the agenda was drawing from the 8 solemn declarations. As pronounced during the 50th celebration of the existence of the OAU, which focused on the struggle against colonialism as the main thing, we can tick the box that long ago, at inception, it looked like a very difficult thing. But there was a point at year 50 where we looked back and said, what are success stories around colonialism? We were ticking many boxes, and we are proud of Africa and our forefathers. The integration agenda, peace and security, governance, and so forth. When somebody asks you what Agenda 2063 is, you must be able to tell them that what the OAU was doing, Agenda 2063 is continuing, because we drew the 7 aspirations of Agenda 2063 from those 8 solemn declarations. And they were pronounced as Aspiration 1 being a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. If you look at these 7 aspirations, and there's any challenge or opportunity for Africa that is not covered here, you are welcome to share it with us, because a strategy is an evolving thing. This is at inception in 2013. A reflection was made, and we are saying this is the picture at 2063. We want a prosperous Africa, an integrated Africa. These 7 aspirations, they are called aspirations because one would say they are highly, dangerously and consciously ambitious. It's not a void dream, it's a deliberate ambition that was set out in 2013 and broken down into 20 goals. For instance, aspiration on prosperity, we have goal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, driving that aspiration. That is in our horizontal reading of this. I don't think you can see, but we'll share this, Madam Clerk, because this is part of my awareness creation and I want it to be referenced. And we are attempting to translate it to all languages so that at least you have a back pocket thing when you write your report and when you share with the parliaments when you get back to the capital. So in this case, we are saying that horizontally, these are the goals that are driving each of the aspirations. And if you look down, now going vertically, you'll see down there the yellow part that if we are doing right for wealth creation, then goal 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 13, 14, 19 must perform for us to be a prosperous, wealthy Africa. And shared prosperity and transform livelihood, there are specific goals that we are setting out to do. If you look at environmental sustainability, in 2013, there was a specific goal 7 that is saying we have to create environmentally sustainable and climate resilience economies and communities. Looking at the uncertainties, the complexity of climate change issues, one would say that then it was sufficient. You would look into how we spell it now. You may find us now starting to talk about funding climate change issues as one of the urgent things that we have to address. We had set out 15 flagship projects, and these were kind of like catalytic, must-happen projects in the first 10 years for us to go forward in the next decades of the agenda. If they had not performed well, it means that we have a backlog. It means that we have to accelerate our performance to be able to catch up with the lost. We had implementation pathways founded upon the issue of advocacy and informed public, for which, like Madam Vice President said, and like we are frequenting PAP in this season of the beginning of the second 10 year, we are saying that we cannot do much without informed public and without you standing as advocates to our public for Agenda 2063. We put up implementation support structures deliberately to domesticate and internalize the agenda, mainstreaming it into national development plans, and having proper dashboards and reporting structures and evaluation and accountability platforms. We say the execution has to happen across all AU organs, the RECs, the member states, our ministries, our departments. If it is for citizens, how do we make it by citizens? Remember, even the vision spells out it has to be driven by African citizens. That is the boring part that I said I would share in case we are not in the same level of what is the agenda, where are we coming from, why are we saying what we are saying in the second decade. And spelling up the second 10-year implementation, our heads of states and executive council set up, or they pronounced their decision 1164, setting out a special project that was meant to evaluate the first 10 year and develop the second 10 year of Agenda 2063. The work was done, and in February 2024, this is where decision 1260 came out. And it was renewing the special project that the African Union Commission, in collaboration with UNEPAD, they should implement the special project. Components of it is domestication, building capacity, coordinating performance, and reporting on Agenda 2063. And we cannot do that without collaborating with African institutions. We also had to finalize a development fund because Agenda 2063 is a continental project and it has to have project fund, hence this. I want us to pay attention to number 9. We were just picking from Decision 1260 what is relevant. It says that we are directed all organs in line with their mandates and statutes to implement past decisions related to Agenda 2063 to accelerate implementation of the second decade of Agenda 2063. This means that there had been some decisions in the past that were pronouncing the work of Pan-African Parliament on Agenda 2063, and they had not been implemented, or maybe the PAP had not been taking their space. Maybe AUC has not been taking their space. In the evaluation, we realized that because you are the Pan-African Parliament and you don't share mandate with anyone of oversight, that role is still on you. Even though you may not have done it in the first 10 years, this decision then compels you to say, go back to all historic decisions that were assigning you for Agenda 2063 and start implementing them. The two folds of the special project was to evaluate and then to come up with the second 10-year. I'm just giving this as a flashback snippet of what we were looking for in the evaluation. We got lashed so much that who had the audacity to evaluate the agenda for Africans without the parliament? So we already have our backs injured from the members of parliament, and we acceded to that gap that if the Pan-African Parliament was not engaged as it was not engaged, it was an error and omission that we cannot afford to continue. Hence, we are here. We looked at relevance and said the results were that the agenda is still relevant. We looked at efficiency, weak in that we're not doing things right. The framework document spelled out the right things, but we decided not to do them right. So we need to say, if at all, in how we were executing in the first 10 years, 76% of the budget was skewed towards peace and security. But instead of silencing the guns became louder. Are we sitting on a fate that they are louder because they are about to be silenced completely? Or is it that we have to monitor that? Are they loud because we are putting money in the wrong things? Maybe we are managing the results of lack of economic distribution, unemployment, they result in the wide and loud gun. So how do we go back to correct the economic flaws that may be the root cause of the guns that you are hearing? In terms of coherence, we are looking at its compliance and its compatibility to other frameworks, especially the global strategy, the SDGs, and the high fives, and the REC strategies. What can we do to align and leverage on these other structures? Effectiveness. Yesterday, when we were presenting, we were told that we want progress. And in my reflection, I believe that's what the MPs were looking for. So the performance is very poor. 29 out of 69 indicators rated below 0 in what we were measuring. And I want to just say here that it's not only in Agenda 2063, even in SDGs, we are performing very poorly as Africa. Impact, we are hopeful. There's convergence and many common positions. One of our example is the AFCFTA. Sustainability is weak. Domestication, we did not do well. We did not communicate. We did not create awareness. It was a matter of maybe the AU agenda or the Addis Ababa thing but we want it to be the thing of the African citizens. Coordination wasn't that good. We will see that. Implementation, arrangements and structures, and mutual accountability. Where yesterday the issue was, is the low level of awareness of Agenda 2063 on our MPs a result of AU not doing something right? Or is it a result of our coordination arrangements where those going to the Executive Council, to technical meetings at AU, how do they feedback back into our parliaments? After yesterday, I decided to go to one of the evaluation reports and just draw a snippet of what I was talking about when I say the performance is poor. Just one priority area of modern and livable and basic quality services that also reflect to housing and livelihoods in terms of electricity connection. You see those rates where we were in value in 2013, and then there are many where we regressed or the growth point was very minimal. When we were intending to reduce slums by at least 10%, you see where we are. So in a nutshell, these are some of these energy draining slides that when you look at them, even your pace and your confidence in talking reduces. So given a chance, I will rush through them because we have a full document that I will refer to so that they can have their eyes wide open in all of us and traumatize you as they are traumatizing Mutubayendi every day looking at them. And these are our realities. We need to absorb them, be intimidated by their low performance and negative results so that we do something different. What is the posture in the second 10-year implementation plan? Now that you know we did badly, we did not coordinate well, what is the new posture? We need to put up effective mechanisms for sustainable domestic resource mobilization. A lot of things were not done because there's no funds. We need strong implementation and coordination mechanism, better reporting, which means better collection of data and credible data for emphasis to say it must be data that when your president is at the assembly, your minister is not in trouble, because it would be a fair and credible data that everybody would know it is what it is. It's not the fault of the National Statistics Office. It is the reality. That's why we emphasize on credibility of data, because it says a lot and it rubs our leaders very much if data is red and they want to appear green. We need to place explicit resilience mechanisms. These are necessary because we had a lot of shocks, your COVID-19, your climate issues, your droughts. We need to domesticate better and put national implementation structures. Lastly, have a dedicated fund. We were reflecting on and pausing at the second 10-year because it's mandatory, and it was wisdom from the onset that every 10-year we must try to relook at the agenda, which we have done, because we are in a VUCA world. Things are changing, things are evolving, so we need to be vigilant to pause and adapt. The quality of our data also sometimes was giving us a false indication of baselines. So every 10 years, we checkpoint to where we are, reflect and reset. I want to share that from your parliaments in October 2023, when we were doing the first, can I say, leadership validation of Agenda 2063 second 10-year implementation plan, there was a sitting in Rwanda where the Executive Council, being Ministers of Foreign Affairs, extended the invitation to Ministers of Planning and Ministers of Finance to the first validation of the second 10-year. And they committed, or they recommitted to say, we are still interested in the agenda and we are still committed as leadership. And they committed resources. They said, going forward, we will fund the agenda. They gave us direction and they say, go and align for effective execution of the second 10-year. We understand why we couldn't do better. Not all is lost because we are still alive to recover. So our transformational and visionary leadership, drawing from 8 solemn declarations, 7 aspirations, conceived in that a validation of 7 moonshots. Like I said, the process went on beyond that. Executive Council was an ordinary Executive Council approving the second 10-year. The Assembly approved it on the 17th to 18th February. And we are in the execution mood. This is the launch document. And I want to just judge from this, speaking to this slide, how many of you had seen this launch document of Agenda 2063, second 10-year implementation plan? By show of hands, how many of you have seen this launch document? Somebody is saying nobody. I was going to be having my eyes on Cote d'Ivoire because Cote d'Ivoire is our current champion on Agenda 2063. Are you aware that the president of Cote d'Ivoire is the champion? Brilliant. Ghana, are you aware that you chair the ministerial committee on Agenda 2063? Is Ghana around the table? Are you aware? On Agenda 2063. How come you have not seen this document?
The ministerial is executive, it's not parliament.
I know, but exactly my point. I want you to hold on to that because we dropped the ball because there's no loophole, there's no feedback loop to say when a foreign affairs minister go to the executive council and support the president at the assembly. How do we intentionally feed back to our parliaments? So mark this as a huge question mark because we need to discuss this out of it. We come with an expectation that these are 2 distant structures, but they are sitting in one member state. They are all dealing with the African Union. When they get back to the capital, how is the information coming from AU going across? Like I was saying that when the special executive council, it extended the invitation to ministers of planning and to ministers of finance. Let's look for the right feedback loop to say, where are we losing the information? I'll get to that shortly. The context of the second 10-year is that we are incremental over the 50 years. The first decade was the decade of convergence. We wanted to learn to agree. We wanted to learn to drop off the extremist positions and come closer to being one Africa. We have achieved a lot in that. We had seen a number of common positions, but in the process, we lost time as the results are looking at us to say we are still very poor, we haven't done much. And the decade of the second 10-year is dubbed the decade of acceleration to say, can we pick pace? Brought forward, low performance in the first 10-year means that we cannot continue the pace. We have to do things differently. And then the other decades to ultimately being a decade of a continent of influence after 50 years, really say we must do things very well internally in our closed doors for us to be felt maybe by the third decade. This then, the decade of acceleration, pronounces 7 moonshots. to say that if we are to achieve prosperity in 2063 as one of our aspirations, the year 20 indicator, which is a moonshot, is that every AU member state should attain at least middle income status. And then for us to be a well-cultured Africa in 2063, our African values need to be explicit and promoted. For us to enjoy respectable partnerships where we are equal, not beggars, we have to have an Africa that is strong and influential. That's why I said the impact would keep being incremental. We have been admitted into the G20. It is one thing to have a seat, but it is another thing, and even more frustrating, to be in a seat and not make a difference. It's better you are away, not where you are present, and people are eating, you are looking at them. So we need to accelerate to start having or earning that level of respect in the global arena. I will speak then to the aspect of coming closer home to aligning Pan-African Parliament for effective implementation of the second 10-year. We appreciated hindrances as we are evaluating the first 10-year, issues of climate change, droughts, unexploited and unoptimized resource potential, some tangible, some intangible, our talent. The Vice President talked about brain drain, to say that how are we optimizing our talent? If on one hand we are educating, on another end we are not industrializing enough to absorb these graduates or to come up with graduates who are matching the job openings. We need to do better in this decade. It is a serious hindrance. Our inability to exploit our mineral resources, the energy deficit, illicit financial flows. We are having issues of financing, security, guns becoming louder, and it becomes a hindrance if we are unable to optimize as a continent science and technology and research. The accelerators, what can make us pick up the pace and deliver the second 10-year? We need to coordinate and develop implementation arrangements that are better than the ones for the first 10-year. We need to domesticate and take the agenda to its citizens, issues of costing partnerships. All this, if exploited fully, and also capacity building, we can do better. What had we expected from Pan-African Parliament, among other things? What was the Pan-African Parliament absent from doing? Domestication and citizen ownership. We had expected the PAP to advocate for adoption of Agenda 2063 frameworks as a blueprint for Africa's development by all parliaments and legislators on the continent. We also expected PAP to lead the crusade for citizenry education on their role. Oh gosh, can I have power? Excuse me for that. We also wanted the Pan-African Parliament to ensure that all members of the regional parliaments and political parties in their national manifestos, yes, Charger, to infuse Agenda 2063 in their manifestos, to say that every political party in standing to take over power must have infused Agenda 2063, so that anyone who wins, we continue with the agenda without any threats for some of the collapse of strategy due to leadership change. One of the threats to strategy execution is leadership change. So if everyone of the political parties are aligned to Agenda 2063, we won't delay much in any government transition of our 55 member states. And then in terms of monitoring and evaluation, We had gone through the first 10-year evaluation. PAPSH was supposed to have been there. While we were looking at how did we perform against this indicator, there's that, because it is spelled out what member states should have in place for the agenda to thrive. The oversight of PAP could have helped us in evaluating the governance readiness of us getting into the second decade. The biennial report. Thus far, we have 17 member states who have never reported on Agenda 2063. And I'm not sure where we sit. Have we ever seen the report of our member states on Agenda 2063? And even worse, as AU, where I sit, we have never come to discuss that report with the PAP, at least to raise awareness and create consciousness of our legislators that we are not doing well. And from here, we would expect some influence from the advocacy role of our members of parliament back to the parliaments to say we are really not doing well as country X. And as a collective, as PAP, we need to see how they are helped. In the implementation, I earlier said some of the structures you'd find in Parliament. We have a committee that deals with SDGs, and it has very little to do with Agenda 2063. But in 2018, the UN Secretary General and the AU Chairperson, they signed an agreement that at member state level, the agendas 2063 and 2030 will be delivered together and integrated in our national development plans. The themes of that agreement was that there's need for advocacy and awareness raising of the joint implementation. If we are still doing distinct implementation, we are missing out on the value of this signed document, which was very noble because it also spelled a theme on integration of Agenda 2063 to national development plans, issues of capacity of research, issues of effective performance tracking. So it's one of the things that we know we didn't do well. Not all is lost. There are a number of countries, like I talked about, our diversity, our maturity, our implementation, health or otherwise. There are a number of countries who are already coming up with cooperating frameworks to integrate Agenda 2063 and the SDGs. I want to pause and say, how many of us are aware as to whether our countries have this framework or not? Is there anyone from Botswana? Are you aware of this one? Yes. Thank you very much. Are we aware of these frameworks? Can we speak as to whether they exist in our countries or not? Burkina Faso, are you aware of it? Burkina Faso, are you there? Burkina Faso is not here. Whose report is on the screen? Chad, are you aware? No. You are not. I want us, as you say yes and no, to speak to the aspect that where is the missing link in terms of us having the right information that we can facilitate our legislators with around Agenda 2063. I'll come back to you, Botswana, as to how did you get to know long-term and medium plans. Some of them are already integrating both Agenda 2030 and 2063. Ghana has done it, Rwanda has done it, Libya, Gabon, Malawi, and others. Long-term medium plans on REX are already integrating both agendas. I want us to tell you that when I say integrating, it is a bare minimum measurement that we see a mention of Agenda 2063 and Agenda 2030 It's not like we can, with confidence, say they are doing something very valid together and aiding to performance. That we will get to later. But at least the first tick, they are there. There are issues that we have found out in our engagements and evaluation of the environment at PAP that we can say they are hindering PAP in implementation of the agenda and especially the second 10-year. But I would like to talk to mainly to 2 points. The first one is that, let me mention it to you also, because I mentioned it to the MPs. We don't have a clear line of sight between the global strategy, which is the SDGs, Agenda 2030, the continental strategy, and continental plans. In most cases, we see them as competing in such a way that people would want to say, and they say, I don't know anything about Agenda 2063, I only know about SDGs. They will be having SDGs in the banners, in the offices, no Agenda 2063. I want to say that even before we talk about the agreement and framework that was signed, we should know that it is inherent in planning that you have drivers and outcomes. If we do right in our continental strategy, definitely we will impact indicators of the global strategy. If we do well in our national development plans and they are aligned to continental and global, obviously the indicators of the SDGs will happen. So we are saying, how do we look at it positively? We once engaged the planners and they were saying that we have money, the UN give us money to go and collect data about performance of SDGs. And African Union doesn't give us money for Agenda 2063. Agenda 2063, AU, don't call us to meetings where there's a better per diem. SDG does. It's a reality. But if the African Union agenda is our agenda, for me, whether money we are talking about is coming from the budgets at national parliaments or at Mandela Hall in Addis Ababa, for you to call in, it is the member of the 55 member states. So it's a better way of saying, how do we coordinate better and align so that we eliminate duplications, we leverage. I wanted to talk to these 2 points because they speak solely to you that there's poor awareness of policy organ decision and instruments on Agenda 2063. What we were hearing from the members of parliament, they were asking questions like, really, what is Agenda 2063? What is the difference between it and SDGs? And I won't be surprised if some of you here would have the same questions, because personally, I'm relatively more than a year, just over a year at AU. I was a planner in my country, and I knew very little about Agenda 2063. So I wouldn't be surprised when you echo the same like me to say we know very little. I was relating with Ministry of Planning, with Ministry of Trade, but my level of knowledge and awareness was very low. So let us consider how much do we know the framework documents, the policy organ decisions on Agenda 2063, and how are they really supposed to reach you if you are to be facilitating those who release the budget that goes to AU. If they get to look for advice from you, how confident are you to advise them on Agenda 2063? And what can we do about it from this? Like we talked about the feedback loop. On this, the executive knows this, how we know this at parliament level, the technical structures, your statistics office, your finance, F15 team of experts, they would know a little bit. So we need to see to it that what has to be done differently for these, be it tripartite, be it quad points, to at least have a thread to bring it together. Poor uptake of mandate responsibility. We realized this year we were busy planning for domestication And the responsibilities that we are spelling out to be the PAP responsibility, we're in the first year of implementing the second 10-year implementation plan. When we checked PAP, they had not prioritized funding for those key roles. We understand them because they have burning issues, maybe even statutory meetings. They cannot even fund statutory meetings. If they were to prioritize, they would never prioritize Agenda 2063. But learnings from the first 10 years tell us that we cannot move without them. I want to pause here and say, these are framework documents, plans and reports on Agenda 2063. I just picked the cover pages of most of them to ask specific questions. Do we have copies of this? It could be hard copies, it could be soft copies. Do we have them? Have we seen them?
We will speak in the plenary.
No. I want you to internalize this because I'm talking about documents, continental reports, and most of all, I want you to focus on this launch document of the second 10 year, as it was launched in February by our heads of states. From Mandela Hall in Addis Ababa, did they somehow reach you? Are you expecting them to reach you from here through AUC, or are you expecting them to reach you somewhere through your foreign affairs? Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
PEP context, we are transitioning to results-based management, and we expect PAP and the committees that you facilitate to all go results-based. We have a granular first 5-year implementation details. And the next steps we were sharing with them is that our bold next step is just to take the agenda to its owners, which means we domesticate better. It means to you that we need to improve coordination structures. Where do we lose information? Where do we lose an opportunity to empower you as the AU? And where do we lose an opportunity to reach out to the citizens? We need the citizens because if we talk domestic resource mobilization, we don't want to be thieves to go straight to somebody's pockets. We want to go to somebody's heart. And when they are convicted that this is a noble thing, they will voluntarily put up money to it. Be it a member state, be it a millionaire and billionaire at a member state, they first have to be convicted that the agenda is a noble thing and willingly put resources toward it. We cannot do without the legislators, without the Pan-African parliaments, without the national parliaments, without yourselves. We depend on you to be a source of knowledge and facilitation to the legislators. It was a very unfortunate conversation when we were hearing some of the members of parliament saying, I want to bring a good idea that you must start evaluating the agenda when we already have about 4 evaluation reports. We humbly took at it as a clear situational analysis for us. And it is a very clear next step in that when we domesticate, we know the levels of awareness, we know the levels of challenges and complexities. So we give it as information to you for reflection to say, where are the missing links? What can we do better? And we are available as the Office of Strategic Planning and Delivery at the AUC to facilitate you. We coerce you that those who would want to raise their hands and say, can you come and facilitate us as a parliament and build capacity with us, on us, to be maybe a pilot for proper domestication. We look forward to you through the Clerk, and we will. The other key thing that we have found as a missing link between us as the organs of the African Union We have the technical working group on Agenda 2063, and we have not been having a member from the administrative structure of the PAP. From here, it's a matter of we are opening up to them so that we would have a link between ourselves, the PAP, and the national parliaments. Let me submit here. I was warned I have only 5 minutes. It's now 1 minute. Thank you very much for your audience.
Thank you very much to our colleague Boto. That was really a well-crafted presentation. You have given us a lot of information, some of the information that we know so much. You see, the document, the protocol 2063, if you read it, it's a very, very nice, protocol. Taking care of the whole of Africa, taking us to the future that we want to see. But we don't know where the problems are. The parliament, is waiting for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in some other countries. I don't know whether it's the same, but, when it's after, it was, agreed upon, it will come to parliament for parliament, to endorse. Now, looking at the very beautiful protocol that is there for many, many years now, and I was looking at the SADC countries who ratified, the protocol, and I cannot say anything. I can just keep quiet because the problem is just there. You can see in so many, many other countries. I don't know whether maybe, there is a problem that we don't understand. We are just technocrats, and we really want to work, to take this protocol further to the high heights. But I just want to open up the floor, maybe for a few minutes, because we are behind time also. I have two hands. I can start with you in that order, and then Ghana. Is it Ghana? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to
Number
thank
three.
you. I want to thank you very much about. Yes, it is very carved study. Actually, I like the phrase you use, and maybe change to Arabic. أشكرك شكرا جزيلا على هذا التقديم.
It covered a number of aspects. You covered all the aspects. Your presentation covered all the components of the topic. So my question is the following. How can you evaluate the quality of this plan by 2063? Because it's a very long period of time. And in our countries, we know that long-term projects are generally very ambitious and they're never implemented. And you've also covered all the aspects of the project. But there is nevertheless one aspect which is important, and that's the cultural aspect of our countries. Culture is very important, and it is very important for our countries to change their mindset. Let me just give you an example. When we take the case of education in our countries, a lot of ground has been covered in our countries, but the objective of education is to find a job. And that is the reason why we have a lot of unemployed people looking for jobs. We have a number of unemployed graduates. So what do they do with their qualifications, with their degrees? Now, moving to the social aspect, even those who colonized us have have put emphasis on the need to study the social structure of our societies. So I believe that a study of our social structure is important, and there should be a link between the citizen and the nation. In developing countries, according to Kissinger, he said a citizen does not have any idea of a nation, but most of our countries are corrupt countries. So we have to fight against corruption because we are all suffering from financial and administrative corruption. Such a good quality study is required. I've listened to you carefully, and you mentioned the logarithms and the calculations that are required, and that's not found often in studies presented in our countries. We always talk of dreams, and as a Muslim, the Quran says that we should know exactly how we should deal with all issues. And the story of Yusuf Joseph tells us how we should do the calculations to avoid famine and drought. You spoke about a change in the paradigm in our countries. So if we pay attention to the citizens' implication, we can make progress. So mathematics are important, scientific calculations are important, but we must have a thorough understanding of our projects and programs so that we can be fair to everybody. We are very grateful to your scientific approach to how changes can be made in our countries. Well, I will take the floor another time because your topic is very interesting for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have given to Ghana was number 2. In this order, you are number 5, 3, 4, and 5, 6.
Thank you very much. Yes, I must say that Ghana is the chair of the committee, the Ministerial Committee on the Agenda 2063. And so our Minister of Foreign Affairs brings this to the country, to the executive, and then the National Development Planning Commission. But they have an indirect means of informing Parliament. Our Constitution, Article 36, Clause 5, provides that within 2 years of assuming office, the President presents to Parliament a coordinated program of economic and social development policies, including agricultural and industrial programs at all levels in the regions of Ghana. So you mentioned that the political parties should be aligned to Agenda 2063 and such that the agenda is infused into their party manifestos so that whichever party wins the elections will then be able to bring this up. So yes, the president presents this to Parliament indirectly. It doesn't. The documents, Agenda 2063 documents, don't come to Parliament directly. So indirectly, through the presentation to Parliament, they infuse the Agenda 2063, the SDGs, and then the party manifestos together, and then come and present it as the coordinated program of economic and social development policies, including agriculture and industrial. So when this is done, and they've been doing it every 2 years after they assume office, And so when it is done, Parliament refers it to its Committee on Poverty Reduction for them to scrutinize it and then report back to the House. So that's what I want to say. That's the status in Ghana. However, the presenter mentioned that the AUC has done evaluation reports. But my question would be, how come, evaluation reports are done without parliaments? How come that the AUC was able to do evaluation reports outside the parliaments within the region? They did it on their own and they have put it on their website. How? How would, if it is the parliaments and the people of Africa who are to sort of apply and implement Agenda 2063, in doing evaluations, obviously it should include them. And so that's the question I would also want to ask here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother from Ghana. Yes.
Nigeria.
And then Botswana after you, Nigeria, Botswana, and then Cote d'Ivoire.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Is it Cote d'Ivoire?
My name is Godwin Ekpenyang, Nigeria. I want to thank the presenter for the beautiful speech she has made. It is gratifying that Africa is waking up even at this time so that we can have a common front for prosperity, for peace. From the questions you threw to the members of the ASGP, it is obvious that most of us do not have the documents in order to study, because it's only when you are aware of something you can support. And I want the Madam Chairperson, so that if members can have this document and then we'll study it, knowing that clerks are institutional memories of our different parliaments, and we can be a progressive factor in having these documents domesticated or supported by the various national parliaments. And in saying so, I do not know what is happening to the African peer review mechanism, because if the AOU conducts such assessment, it is the parliament that will confirm or also assess what they have done, so that it will be people-centric. I need to submit that if this body is carried along, I think we will put in more impetus to have it successful, because 50 years is a long while, but if we do not work and then carry other aspects of governance structure together, we may find it that 50 years after, we would not have achieved what we intend to. So please, clerks are very important, and we need to carry the clerks along, because successive parliaments will need the clerks to inform them that, oh, this is where we stop on this matter in the previous parliament. We need to carry it on from there. And they also have to engage various Ministry of Foreign Affairs on this, so that we can achieve its purpose. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Botswana, and then Sierra Leone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I wish to also join colleagues in thanking Mrs. Botobayendi for the beautiful and enlightening presentation on Agenda 2063. Let me also say, just like my colleague from Nigeria has pointed out, Parliament, at least from Botswana's perspective, seem to be a bit on the outside when it comes to information trickling down to it. In our situation in Botswana, it starts with the time of orientating new members of Parliament. You may recall that in 2019, we did reach out to the AU Commission to come and present to the orientation. There was a representative who came to present, And the other time that we had interaction with the Agenda 2063 was during the debate on the National Development Plan, which is aligned to the Agenda 2063 and SDGs. What we have planned to do after orientation was to come up with strategic plans for the various portfolio committees, which will be aligned to the sectors covered under the different aspects of the Agenda 2063. Unfortunately, COVID did not allow us to do that. As a result, there was a gap in terms of getting Parliament to get involved in the review process. But the reports which were on the SDGs were debated in Parliament. I remember one or two, but it was inconsistent in the sense that it's only when Parliament asked that we heard there was a report which was tabled at the UN. How come we didn't see it? But we are the ones who are supposed to be in touch with the populace. So in short, I'm saying the communication on the Agenda 2063 is not very effective. And it starts with the visibility of the PAP, in our view. The visibility of the PAP cannot happen without discussing the Agenda 2063, as they are the champions in this regard. So we must start by improving the communication between PAP and national parliaments, and also trying to discuss these as debates in Parliament, tabled reports in Parliament. We have the delegations coming to PAP, but we are struggling to get reports from them, which would touch on issues such as these. So we also need to find out how we can improve. Maybe it's in a Parliament of Botswana only, but we would love a situation whereby we have debates on the decisions of PAP, championed by the representatives of our delegations to PAP, coming up with a position paper from the PAP. Sometimes that is not forthcoming, but that can also improve deliberations on same. But all in all, I would like to thank my colleague and invite her to the next orientation, which is going to come just after elections, around beginning of November, where we would love to start by getting members, the new members, to get involved in discussions such as the SDGs and the Agenda 2063 and alignment, as we'll be discussing the new National Development Plan as well. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Barbara. Sierra Leone. I think after Sierra Leone, we can give the floor back to the presenter, because otherwise she's going to miss out on some of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I also want to join colleagues to say a very big thank you to the director for this detailed presentation. As you peruse through your presentation, you constantly asked a question, whether as parliaments we are aware of this, whether we are aware of this document. For me, the answer is no, we are not aware. And the reason for that is simple. Firstly, to the AU, we are not aware because AU does not effectively relate with national parliaments. You don't. And because you don't, whatever proposals that come up, your engagement is basically with the executive. And the executive too relates with Parliament only on matters that they are interested in. We are Parliament. We don't go signing treaties, etc. Our responsibility is to ensure that once agreements are reached, treaties are signed, they are sent to us for ratification. So most of the treaties, the agreements, the conventions that we look at are those forwarded to Parliament by the executive. So one cautionary note I will make is for AU to strengthen its relationship with parliaments, especially as you have already identified that you need PAP on board. So you got to strengthen your relationship with PAP, and in turn, PAP strengthens its relationship with national parliaments. The other point I want to make is we're all aware that national parliaments are charged with specific responsibilities. Two of those responsibilities, if national parliaments are made to carry them out, especially when it comes to the issue of Agenda 2063, it will do Africa good. One has to do with our oversight responsibility. Agenda 2063, we all know we want domesticated. But the only organ of government that is competent and with the authority to oversight the executive and by extension the state as to how Agenda 2063 is implemented or taken forward is Parliament. But you know, there is always an uneasy competition between the executive and Parliament. And the executive is not going to open up on Parliament, overseeing its activities on Agenda 2063. So that is where AU should really strengthen PAP to ensure that PAP is able to receive oversight reports from national legislations when it comes to Agenda 2063. I still can recall that about 3 or 4 years ago, SDGs became a core thematic area in our parliament when it came to oversight. The UNDP engaged the Parliament of Sierra Leone, and they ensured that the SDG indicators formed part of our overall oversight for the years to come. And specific reports were developed and submitted on the SDGs indicators. So for me, I will also want to submit that through PAP, individual parliaments are able to provide oversight over government activities when it comes to Agenda 2063. And we can also situate it within PAP plenary, whereas each and every delegation that comes, your first day, the head of your delegation reports on the oversight report, say for the quarter, to PAP, and PAP in turn compiles an African oversight report on Agenda 2063 and submits that to the Commission. The other way we can do it has to do with budget scrutiny and approval. Of course, for our parliaments, we all scrutinize, we all approve the budgets. I've seen areas where we'll get thresholds. You can develop a matrix as AU Commission to say, for example, each and every state, your national budget, this percentage should go to this goes to this other kind of thing. That's a guiding matrix. We've seen it. Every day we shout, we are meeting the threshold on health. We are meeting the threshold on education. These are guided, metrics. So you can also develop a guiding matrix to ensure that when we are scrutinizing budgets, we are looking for those bits, whether government has focused on indicators or activities or interventions that will promote Agenda 2063. So that is also another very important thing. But on the whole, AU should strengthen its relationship and its communication with PAP and national parliament to ensure that Agenda 2063 is prioritized, or else the executive is not going to do it. I rest my case.
Thank you very much. I have no choice as to give it to you because I said, she must get, it's a comment. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, de m'accorder ces...
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I would like to join my voice to my predecessors to commend the presenter. I was indicating that I am actually making a call, an advocacy. It's a call for the clerks and our national parliaments as junior parliamentarians did for the sensitization of SDGs for at the African Union. We have to develop a control module for Agenda 2063 for national parliaments to be able to assess the implementation of Agenda 2063 by governments. That is why I'm making this call for the African Union through the director. We should develop a model for the assessment of the implementation of Agenda 2063. This model should be given to the national assemblies. Thank you.
For another comment?
Oui, merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Chair. I would equally like to add that, or rather join my voice to commend the in-depthness of the analysis of the assessment that the Department of Madam has done. It's very interesting. However, the question I would like to ask has been, or the concern that I have has been raised by the distinguished Secretary General of Sierra Leone, that of, is there any institutionalized link in major projects like this, on major projects like this that extends on to 2063, that there should be a communication to the people and parliaments that are concerned by the Agenda 2063. I would like to ask a question. Within the framework of your assessment, did Madame Bayendi consider the fact that what came out of the assessment is that there wasn't any communication to the people and the Pan-African Parliament? Was there any answer on, was there any answer to this concern, which we may consider as a challenge when the strategic plan of Agenda 2063 was established? After this assessment, 10-year assessment project, was there any decision taken on what should be done and establishing strategic relationships with the Pan-African Parliament, national parliaments, to reach the African people and the stakeholders that should implement this agenda? Otherwise, why is there no answer that should logically follow this type of assessment? Usually, there should be some questions raised to, there should be a kind of sensitization to the African people on this Agenda 2063, or do you think that would ever think of such sensitization, and do you think that it will produce any result? As we are here today, do you think that we can encourage the African Union to undertake these same steps to educate the African people on this Agenda 2063? Thank you.
At this juncture, I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Bayenti Boto. Most of them were also comments and so on. So, yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll try to respond to specific questions, but also keep referencing to the presentation I shared and also the documents that you'll be sharing. They'll clear some of the questions being asked. But let me try to address fundamental constraint in terms of the perspective that we've been having in the first 10 years and what exactly need to change. The last speaker talked about AU educating the African people. We are here because we are saying the AU cannot educate the African people. The Pan-African Parliament has a responsibility to educate the African people on policies, including the strategy, which is Agenda 2063. We are here, we were with the legislators for them to be aware of that responsibility. And we are here to facilitate you with knowledge and information. And for us in the next session to explore what can we do to close these gaps. We have identified very critical gaps that there are missing links between the parliament and the executive, the parliament and the AU, and we need to come up with solution of what can work. Botswana shared a little bit of their experience of what they think they are dropping the ball, and let us identify those loops, the gaps in those loops, and we are the very people to try and come up with suggestion on a better domestication of Agenda 2063. We are here in a humble way of saying we have not done right in the first 10 years, but it is the brains around this room that must come out with what is a better domestication. And then we develop domestication guidelines and we handhold you into effective domestication. Secondly, AU has a number of organs. And when the decision says that all the organs must implement the past decisions, it is saying to ACBF, Capacity Building Foundation, you had a stake that you did not do. Pan-African Parliament, you had your stake that you did not do. AUC, Office of Strategic Planning, you had your stake that you did not do. So we are at a point of gap analysis and then coming up with solutions to close the gaps. I want to assure you that some have taken their space. For instance, in terms of decisions, we are trying to come up with a way of saying, what are the decisions? I see one and the treaties and everything. The decisions that had been made, they are still relevant, they are still impactful. Which ones do we need to take forward? So if we can do that, we'll be able to eliminate the decisions that had not worked. When you asked, are there any decisions taken? I shared decision 1260. It says, let's go back to fit in our space, do what we did not do in the first 10 years, but we still have to do. There's also a specific decision that most of the things did not happen because we did not have funding. A decision of the February Heads of State Summit says, develop a fund to create a pool of funding for Agenda 2063 so that it is never an excuse that we did not do the right thing because we did not have money. In that case, I would take us to a Johannesburg decision in terms of sustainable funding of African Union, therefore Agenda 2063. Member states committed to say that they will collect 2% levy to fund the agenda. And in terms of implementing decisions, I think the last report was saying only 17 out of 55 member states were doing that. So it is about decisions taken, decisions not implemented, the right things not being done. So in that case, let's all open up to solution mode and most of all, do thorough root cause analysis. I think Ghana shared the reality in Ghana. Botswana shared a little bit. Nigeria, I appreciated the issue of APRM, and you are a noble example. Earlier, when I said that we are diverse in Africa, there are some member states that are doing well in peer review mechanism. Others have not. So like you said, peer review mechanism, governance, oversight, the role of PAP, they converge somewhere and they are crucial ingredient into effective implementation of the second 10-year. So it's one area that we are also exploring. I had already committed that we are bringing PAP close to Agenda 2063 by designating one permanent member into the technical working group. And I believe that would extend into the pilot that I have offered you, that if you are a member state willing that, come over and let's exploit, like Botswana said, you orientate our new members. Honestly speaking, when we were planning in the strategy office, we had thought that every country going for elections in 2024 is going to posture in the second 10-year atmosphere, but we are not there yet. Like Botswana, which other countries are still to go to elections? Please feel free immediately after the elections when you orientate. Don't look for political, I hope it is not recorded. Don't look for excellencies to go and orientate excellencies without a technical person. Always insist on we need technical support so that they are compelled. Sometimes we miss an opportunity that it would be somebody taken and the chairperson would be appointing who would talk to these newly elected political and then appoint a commissioner to go there. But the commissioner would not articulate Agenda 2063 from a technical point of view like I would. So sometimes that's where we miss. We are busy, yes, but I believe in our domestication guideline because we want to go to every member state and present your profile to say that it is going to create friction between the executive and the parliament. And we are ready for that. Once the Ministerial Committee on Agenda 2063 approve our guidelines, we are going to be doing what we call a productive conflict. We are going to clash the parliament and the executive in that. We will have a country profile that say, Botswana, this is how we are experiencing you. We have done 3 reviews. You participated in 1. We have done, we have for Moonshot 1, 7 ratifications that would make or break Moonshot 1. Out of that, you have ratified 1. Can you, in your consciousness and in your sovereignty, please come out knowing that if you don't ratify, be it Malabo, how are you affecting Aspiration 1, Moonshot 1 of Agenda 2063? We are bringing clarity into this domestication to say that we are not leaving you without you very clear that this is how we are experiencing you in execution of Agenda 2063. So it's a noble thing that we really want to say. The next exercise, I believe, Dr. Remember, you'll be leveraging on this conversation to say that then what is next? How do we shape the relationship and the domestication process, drawing from the gaps that we are identifying here? Strengthening the relationships with the parliament. An example was given that UNDP engaged parliaments directly. I want to say that we are taking that very well. There's in the technical working group, UN organs, and we have somebody from UNDP in our technical working group. We will benchmark and see how it best works. But we are here in PAP because through PAP, we can achieve a lot through national parliaments. We can't dispute that, and we take it as a very good indication. In terms of metrics, we actually developing something in collaboration with our NEPAD that would help us to track as fast as possible. I relate this to an earlier comment that how are we going to be measuring at the end of 50 years is a long term. The slide that I was showing, having the picture of Madam Zuma, is exactly a solution to say long-term plans. We know the ultimate, and that is why they are called aspirations. They are far-fetched, but we need checkpoints. I always emphasize that along the growth point, when a child is born, one of the key indicators is head circumference. But you don't care about somebody's head circumference when they are 40 years. You start developing other indicators that would confirm whether there is growth or not. It is the same thing on monitoring long-term plans. They are the things, specific things that you must tick right for someone up to 10 years. You cannot ask them, what is the name of your wife? But when they are 40, because you start expecting them to get married, children, you start putting on those indicators. So we are measuring in chunks of 10. That is what we are saying. But it's not like we are losing sight of the bigger picture. There standing in one slide, we show a big man or a woman at 50 years. That is a clear indication of what we want to see. And we called it prosperity. But within the first 10 years, what are the things that we must do right for there to be prosperity? It's a linear thing, growth pattern, that we say that if people are lining up to eat, someone should come with fire, some with water, some with the raw material, pap or something. So if there's no fire and you are standing there with pap and water, the people will still starve. So let's look at the measurement of this long-term plan in that linear perspective, but we accept any additions as we refine. The reason why we call the documents that we were sharing in February launch document, we wanted us to, at the coming February, having consolidated the appendices, the communication plan, the domestication plan, we would then publish that which you will carry for the next 10 years as the second 10-year implementation plan document. So the feedback that we are getting from you is not lost. We are still building up, and the ministerial committee is expecting us to give them the annexes to the Agenda 2063, and we will be now posting the documents. Some of them are in our website, some of them are in the NEPAD website, but we are going to leave the clerk with every critical document that we must have, because the more empowered and aware you are, the more we are stronger. And we don't like the reality of some of the questions that were coming from the legislators the previous 2 days. The aspect of culture, if you look into a slide that I showed, how we unpacked the first 5 years, and a specific moonshot speaks to culture. 1, 2, especially when you talk the issues of corruption, we are saying it's a critical success factor that we have visionary leadership, transformational leadership. And if you are to take any quality of a transformational leader, you start shedding your corrupt mind. So these things are consequence of us posturing as Africa and saying the values that would lead us to Agenda 2063 calls us as leaders not to be corrupt. And know that it's a decision point that you are for or against Agenda 2063 if you posture otherwise. And we want Agenda 2063 as a strategy to be leadership driven. We had asked for an extraordinary summit on Agenda 2063 because the ministerial committee were saying that over the years, our heads of states the champion present to them 15 minutes during the assembly. And in that case, they do not really have an opportunity to internalize the agenda, but we are hungry for a leadership that emits the values of Africa inside out. So we need to recover our leadership into the agenda. So it's something that we are looking into. We don't know if it will happen. And this time around, if it will happen, the Pan-African Parliament would be our main partner because we can do without them. That is the assurance I was giving the members of Parliament. In summing up the issue of communication and next steps, we are going to be closer to you to define the domestication plan. Dr. Remember will fill into what are the things that we need to do right, what are the coordination structures we need to put in place, what is not working for us, where are we dropping the ball, be it between the executive and the legislative at national level or with AU. The bottom line is that the taxpayers' money always take a delegation to Addis Ababa during these summits. So it's critical to us that when they go back to the capital, all structures receive feedback. It is not only for Minister of Finance to know that this is demanded from Botswana as a contribution to AU. It is also very critical that the Parliament especially know that there are 5 things that have not been ratified and they are blocking progress in Aspiration 1 or Moonshot 4. If we can map that very clearly, we can consciously make decisions for or against Agenda 2063. Consciously. Let me submit here, the clerk will kill me for taking more time, but we really are available, and I honestly want to engage even beyond the setting that we are available to make Agenda 2063 domestication work for the Africa we want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bayendi. Can we give her another round of applause, please? Thank you very, very much. We stepped into our lunch time. At this juncture, we can break for lunch, and maybe with your permission, colleagues, can we go for 45 minutes? Can we break for 45 minutes and come back at a quarter to 2? Is that okay? It's a no. We did. We did.
I know 1 hour. Everyone's
We did not sign a contract for 1 hour, ne? Yeah, but it's okay. Let us go for 1 hour then. 2 o'clock we are back here. Thank you.
Okay, distinguished colleagues, the lunch will be served in the cafeteria and coupons have been distributed. If you haven't, please just wait for the ushers to give you a coupon because that's what you'll need in the cafeteria. The second is that after lunch, there will be a media banner outside this room where we are requesting clerks to just give 2-3 minute expression of the key issues that bring us together, because we want to formulate it into a documentary of sorts around the role of clerks of Parliament in Africa. Thank you.
of women in Africa, again, has been ratified by close to 50 states, but there are still about 6, 7 states that have not yet ratified this specific treaty. A big problem also relates to the fact that sometimes there are treaties that have stayed without being ratified or without entering into force for a long time, such that developments actually come and make them almost redundant. In 2014, for instance, when the Malabo Protocol that is supposed to revamp the Pan-African Parliament was adopted, another treaty was also adopted to expand the African justice and human rights. That protocol was amending a protocol that was adopted in 2008. But from 2008 to 2014, it had not been entered into force. So there was an amendment of a treaty that had actually not entered into force. So you see, the longer it takes to ratify these treaties, the longer it takes for them to enter into force, creates a new challenge. So what is it that we as our national parliaments can actually do in collaboration with the Pan-African Parliament to ensure treaties across that have been adopted by the African Union over these years see the light of day, enter into force, and ultimately are universally ratified by all member states of the African Union. You as parliaments have the authority in many countries across Africa to approve the ratification of treaties. We know that the executive has the power to negotiate and to ratify treaties. But across many African countries, they come to you as parliaments for approval of those ratifications. So this provides entry points, opportunities for parliaments across the continent to ask the question to the executive: are we considering ratifying this specific treaty? For instance, for the Agenda 2063 to see its full potential, there, for instance, the treaty on free movement of people that will require the free movement of services and people across continent for the maximum potential of. There is a single air transport market that requires also acceptance through ratification and accession by member states. There is a process for an African passport. In the human rights field, there's been the protocol on the rights of older persons, adopted in 2016, is yet to enter into force. There is the protocol on the rights of persons with disability, adopted in 2018, yet to receive the requisite 15 ratifications for it to enter